Thank you, Matthew. Do we have any questions for Matthew? He's got some time here, so don't be afraid to come up and speak. So come on up.
I can just ask my question from here. Have there been any cases where local officials, county officials, actually arrested federal agents, who were violating the precepts of the Doctrine of Lesser Magistrate?
Yes, the question is, what's that?
State or local county officials have been arrested by federal agents in fulfillment of their responsibilities, their duties.
Okay, so the question is, just for those watching later, has there been any cases where local or county officials have arrested federal agents? Of course, there's the story I shared about Wisconsin from the 1850s. I know of none currently or within recent history. And then the second question he asked was there any county or local officials that have been arrested by federal agents for interposing via the Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate? And I know of none of those. But understand, when a lesser authority takes a stand against the superior authority, Suetonius said that it's like taking the wolf by the ears. In other words, the lesser authority has to consider what he's doing and the price he might have to pay in doing it. And again, that's why the role of the people is massively important to the Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate, that they rally around their magistrates if they're targeted by state or federal officials. Yep.
My question is J6ers, whom I'm one. Should we worry?
Okay. Well, they made it clear they're not done with their witch hunt, and I suppose if Biden is reelected, their witch hunt will continue. I have friends who are sitting in federal prison right now because of the J6 thing. I have friends that are looking at up to 32 years in federal prison right now. We have a pamphlet on the back for interposing at the doors of abortion clinics. The DOJ, Biden's administration, 23 Christians facing up to 32 years in federal prison each. One of them is an 87-year-old woman who did time in a death camp when she was a child over in Europe, and that's how our government repays her. So yeah, we live in times where good is now declared evil and evil is declared good, and it has consequences. So I think it's extremely important that those of us who aren't under the gun in that way or aren't in prison because of those matters, our duty is to make the suffering of these others known to people. Like, I live on a street with 14,000 cars go down a day, and I have a huge sign out in front about the J6ers. And I have the website j6truth.org so that people can learn about what's happened to them. So I think it's extremely important for us to speak up on their behalf, take action on their behalf in whatever way we can. Some of them I know have family and church members helping them out financially when their husbands and fathers are in jail. Others don't, and they need help. And so we've tried to help various ones along the way. What they've done there is completely evil. How many of you have watched the Epic Times documentary that just came out about 2 months ago? Almost nobody. You have got to watch that one. Epic Times, EPOCH. It's an online newspaper, Epic Times. They did a documentary on the J6 situation, and there's 3 parts to it, if I remember right. And I can't encourage you strongly enough to watch it. Just don't watch it right before you go to bed. It is the evil here is deep, very deep, and so wrong. So yeah, when you're in jail, draw close to God. When I did my 15 months for the preborn, the goodness of it all as a Christian man is whether we're free or bond, we're His. And really, the only thing bad about the time I spent in jail was being separated from my family. I had so much opportunity for ministry. All the young guys would put me on the phone with their wives or their girlfriends, because they all have these troubles. I'd do counseling, from the jail cell, do Bible studies with them. And you have instant credibility when you're in there for something good with the vast majority of the inmates. And so, when you look at Paul and others, they did time, in bonds. And you look at the history of Christianity, it comes part and parcel with the territory, and we've definitely entered into those times here in America. So again, draw close to him.
Thank you. So I know not everyone here is from Dubuque County, but my name's Wayne Kennecker, Dubuque County Supervisor, and I just want to share something here, not really a question, but what this presentation did for me, okay? Because I've been a supervisor now for about 16 months, and what he has just shared with us is exactly right, okay? We had the opportunity 16 months ago, and we made what I consider to be 3 large steps forward. One was the county treasurer, Mike Clausen. One was the county attorney, Scott Nelson. And I don't mean to brag, but I was elected as a county supervisor. And what he has shared with me tonight reinforces what I am trying to do, makes a lot of sense. But it takes more than one to do that. When he mentioned about reinforcement and having the people involved, that's a huge thing for me. When I get feedback from people, it makes a big difference. It keeps me going. We have the opportunity coming up in front of us with this election year to take more steps forward. And the more we do, the better off we are. So really get to know, I know it's hard sometimes, but get an understanding of the candidates. I need some more help to do exactly what he is saying needs to be done. And as far as the meetings being boring, only the first half of today's meeting was boring. Had to do with the zoning and all the other different things. But if you get a chance, all of those meetings are Zoomed, are all recorded. Take a watch. That's where you can get to know some of the people involved. Watch what happened from about 10 o'clock today until 12 o'clock. Okay? Forget the first half hour. But watch the last 2 half hours, and you'll understand and you'll connect with some of what he said tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Amen.
I'd like to make one comment on what Wayne said. If you all go and sit in the boardroom, you'll make them squirm. So don't watch it in Zoom, go to the boardroom.
Wayne's kind of touched on it, but many sheriffs always, and supervisors, always turn to the county attorney.
Yes.
And that's their scapegoat.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, who's most important? Is it the sheriff? I know he can arrest people. Or is it the county attorney?
Yeah, they're all important. And when counties want to interpose, you want as many county officials of the same mindset as possible. But what you talk about is a huge problem, and that's why it's extremely important for us to be able to dismantle the lie of judicial supremacy. So if you go to our website, defytyrants.com, and we have things categorized, hit judicial supremacy. We'll have a number of articles there, because the judiciary must be defied, and most all other magistrates at any level think they got to do whatever the judiciary says, even when they're behaving lawlessly, and that's not true. As Cato ended every one of his speeches by saying Carthage must be destroyed, right? Well, I always tell the magistrates I meet with, the federal judiciary, the state judiciary in many situations also, must be defied. When they're doing wrong, you don't go along with the evil that they're doing. You have to actually stand against it. So until that takes place, nothing's going to change. And it's very easy to dismantle judicial supremacy to the minds of magistrates. Judicial supremacy has three legs to it. One is that the court's opinion is the law of the land. That's not true. The second leg is that the federal judiciary is the final arbiter of what is or isn't constitutional. And the third is that every other level and branch of government must obey them. And that's not true either. Our founders never wanted that. So you have to be able to dismantle it, and we have these short articles that defy tyrants that'll help you. Just to give you a little taste for it, for example, when it comes to being the law of the land, that their opinions are the law of the land, Article 1, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution declares that all lawmaking power resides in Congress, which consists of a House and a Senate. Now, I would get A's in every subject as a kid, except math. I would always get D's, and when they brought letters in to math, I never could cross that river. But even I understand that if all lawmaking power resides with the legislature, how much does that leave for the judiciary? That's right, zero. So it's extremely important to understand that their opinions are not the law of the land. In fact, after the Obergefell decision, which said that homosexual marriage was good and okay and all that kind of stuff, there were 83 judicial scholars from across the country, many of them teaching at major public universities, who put out a document declaring that the other two branches of the federal government and all state governments need to oppose the Obergefell opinion and defy the federal judiciary, because it is the death knell of Western civilization if you allow this to go on. They put their entire careers and pensions in jeopardy to write that article and sign their name to it. Extremely important. Their opinions are not the law of the land. When the courts do wrong, then they need to be checked by the other branches of government. Secondly, here's where they say that the courts are the final arbiter of all constitutional questions. And the lawyers will point you to Article 6, Paragraph 2, and they'll say that's the supremacy clause that gives the Supreme Court and the federal judiciary the supremacy over all constitutional questions. But if you go to Article 6, Paragraph 2, and you can do that tonight before you go to bed, you'll notice that SCOTUS isn't even mentioned. In fact, you'll notice that the federal judiciary isn't even mentioned. In fact, you'll notice that what has the supremacy there in Article 6, Paragraph 2 is the Constitution itself, which everyone takes an oath to uphold. I don't care if you're a policeman in the local police department or the president, they take an oath to uphold that Constitution. And so when it's being impugned by someone else, their duty is to uphold it, not to go along. They don't take an oath of subservience to the federal government. They don't take an oath to lawless opinions issued by SCOTUS or the federal judiciary. They take an oath to the Constitution. And that's why the Article 6 is important. Many talk about the Article 5. Don't waste your time. They'll find a way around that too once that changes. Article 6, Paragraph 3 talks about the oath that every official takes. That's what you have to hold them to. That they uphold their oath to the Constitution and defy the lawlessness by these various branches of government, whether they're at the county, whether they're at the state level or the federal level. Anyways, yeah, that was good.
Hi there. My name is, well, some confusion. We do have a county attorney named Scott Nelson. My name is also Scott Nelson. I'm running, and I'm trying not to soapbox here and just get some votes, but some of this has been fantastic. I'm also running for, there's an open seat this year. I'm going for county supervisor, and like Wayne, I think the council meetings are exciting. Okay. There's always some fireworks. I'm a third generation restaurant owner. My wife and I own the Town Clock. It was Town Clock Inn in downtown Dubuque. And a lot of people don't realize that the tyranny that went on in March 17 of 2019, that was St. Patty's Day, they closed all restaurants down here in Iowa for indoor dining, which makes it tough to make a living as a restaurant owner. And when they finally opened us back up for some dine-in, which I don't remember the exact date, we had, on more than one occasion, we had the City of Dubuque Police Department come into our restaurant, measure the distances between tables and chairs.
Unbelievable.
They would count the number, like we had a bar in one part of the restaurant, and they would count, they had to be 5 feet apart. And we had to eliminate half of our tables and chairs. And by my own ignorance, I had no idea what I could do about this. They just kind of walked all over us because of my own ignorance of the law.
Yeah.
And I know it happened all over Dubuque, and there's a lot of other things that, like you said, by the third meeting you go to, people are going to approach you and ask you. Well, probably by the second meeting that I was there, I decided I'm running for office.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff goes on that people don't. People have no idea what especially in Dubuque, not so much in Dubuque County. We do have people like Wayne, who. He's done a lot to try and stand against a lot of this tyranny, but especially with Dubuque, the internal workings of Dubuque, which goes into Dubuque County with the Board of Health and a lot of these other entities. It's quite interesting and quite disturbing, more than anything. So yeah, to enter the like you said. To get on board or with local government is extremely important. So
Yes.
I appreciate you being here, and I
thank you.
appreciate everything you said.
No, thank you. Yep, and that's true. If you can run, definitely run. Consider before God running. And if you can't run, help someone who is running. We had 3 men who ran in the spring elections from our congregation this year. One county supervisor, another one, it was his 3rd time trying to win. He won school board this time. And then I had a son-in-law in the church too who, he ran for county supervisor, but he didn't win. So extremely important that people consider running.
Other questions? Ben?
This fraudulent, usurping, illegitimate administration has enabled the border to go out of control just as it was before 9/11.
Yeah.
After 9/11, we have the Illegal Patriot Act, we have the illegal FISA courts, and I know, given the situation in D.C., they want another 9/11 attack to further curtail what liberties are left.
Yes.
What else could they do?
Right.
That's the question. It requires imagination, I know, but
Yes.
what do you think they should do?
Yeah.
I'd rather know what can we do.
Yeah, well, I think we need to focus in on county and local government first and foremost, because there's something we can do. There's something we can actually be a part of. None of us here is going to win president. None of us here is probably going to win senator or congressman. And I always, we lost a really good man from our state legislature a few years back because he decided to run for Congress. And I said to him, you're just going to be one fish in a vat of urine over there. Why would you go there where your influence is zero? And you're losing all this good influence you've built here for our state legislature in holding their feet to the fire here. And I just don't get that, So I think we should focus in on more state, county, and local efforts rather than federal efforts. The federal government is at war with the people and has been for decades. And if you want to win there, I don't know. I don't know what your experience has been in Iowa, but my experience has been almost all men who win public office and go to D.C., within a year, you're looking at them, talking to them, thinking a lobotomy must have taken place. And it's the same with most at the state level, too. Within a year and a half, it's like, do I even know you anymore? Why did I help you get elected? It's really sad, and that's why I believe it's extremely important for Christian people who fear God, love Christ, love their neighbor, to run for office, because it's our theology that gives us the grit to stand in the teeth of tyranny and evil and the little clans they've created over at the State House, which, by the way, we always refer to in Wisconsin as the whorehouse, because when you get there, when you first get involved, you're thinking, oh, okay, the State House, you know, justice, righteousness, honesty, right? And then you get there and you learn, no, it's really about three things. Number one, it's about money. Number two, it's about money. Oh, and number three, that's about money too. That's what makes the whole thing tick. And even the men and women who claim Christ, I go back to the churchmen and the pulpits they're sitting under. I don't know, it's really sad to watch. So I think it's extremely important for us to consider running and to try to win and help others who are running if we're not able to run. Yes?
I don't think I need a mic. I missed a couple words.
Okay.
Money legitimizes the evil they...
Oh, money is used to legitimize the fiction that they're building in the minds of men.
The fiction that what?
That they're building in the minds of men. Yeah, that was dealing with the whole pandemic.
But we can use it on other things.
Yes.
I remember when I first told our county supervisors that they shouldn't take the COVID money, and you'd have thought I had 10 heads.
Yes.
And then after the dirty looks were over, I said, no, I'm serious, don't take the money. Exactly what you said. Well, somebody else will. Well, let somebody else have those strings that go with that money, too.
Yep.
But all to naught, they took the money and...
I'll tell you, there's some women I know in various counties around the country. When these contracts were coming in, and they do this with other areas besides the pandemic, too, they would read all those pages of those contracts. And then they'd go up and testify in front of them, and they made those county officials look like complete buffoons, or those school board officials look like complete buffoons, because none of them had read it. And they just, it's free money. Why would I care?
Nothing's free.
Yes, nothing's free. Yes.
Pastor Matt, I have a question. We're fighting in many states these CO2 pipelines. They're just a big scam, and they're threatening to take away farmers' land with eminent domain. And the governors, the leadership in the state legislature, they're all in the tank for this. And so a lot of farmers are wondering, what do we do when they come with the backhoe?
Yeah.
Who interposes for us? We're trying to get sheriffs, but
Yes.
do you have any thoughts on that, how to defend their property?
Your state officials are in the tank with these corporations because of this. That's why they're in the tank. And so, yeah, it's extremely important that people coalesce together and take a stand together against the backhoes and just peacefully, nonviolently interpose against them, force a showdown. I'll tell you a story. I spoke in Idaho back in 2017, I believe the year was, and a state legislature came to my talk on the Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate. The local sheriff wouldn't come. He said, that sounds too radical. And he didn't come, but she did. 2 months later, the federal government was coming to disarm a Vietnam veteran who they felt having arms was a danger to himself and to society. She got 90 people together, and the county sheriff came with her, and they actually stood in front of the guy's door. And when the federal agents showed up, there was this showdown. This is all in the news. You can look it up. It was in Idaho. I forget the name of the town or area, Coeur d'Alene area or somewhere like that. And so what ended up happening was the federal agent says, we're not going to take Mr. So-and-so's guns today. And they leave. And so then the legislator and the sheriff set up a meeting with the county officials, and they were able to work everything out so that they did not take his guns. But did you see how important it was for them to gather together as the people and make a stand against it, along with some magistrates? So if you can find any of these county sheriffs willing to do that, all the better.
We had an instance in South Dakota where a farmer, Jared Bosley, stood up to the governor, and so they came onto his land, and they did a survey, and they drilled 90 feet into his land, and Summit had circled his property before, he had to, before the surveyor with a drill came on. It wasn't just the usual survey equipment. And the sheriff kept the farmer from going onto that land. I guess there was some sort of, restraining order or something against him that was absurd. And so they're kind of afraid that, they're going to be kept off the land once this starts. But you're saying, and we are trying to get sheriffs, and county supervisors are definitely helping.
Yeah, the farmers need to stand together. Didn't the farmers do a great job in Canada? Look at how all the farmers did up there during the whole COVID thing. And the truckers.
And the truckers.
They stood together and they acted together and they took action.
And they stopped their funds, though.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a bloody battle.
That's a part of the thing you have to understand. When you stand against tyranny, their suffering will take place. And we're so used to being part of a generation that's never suffered.
Right.
We can remember our grandparents telling us stories. I'm old enough to remember stories, suffering and things like that, but not us. And so, but we have to understand, when you stand against tyranny, suffering can be part of the stand that you take, or the consequence of the stand that you take. But it's extremely important that it happen. So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm from Scott County, south of here, and along with pipelines, our county supervisors have seen other counties lose against this pipeline, and so now they're not willing to do anything because they've seen other county boards lose. So how do you encourage them what should we encourage them to do?
Yeah, I'd have to look into it more closely to give you my opinion on what I think should be done in a situation like that.
Yeah, they just won't do any resolutions.
Right. So here's what I've learned about most magistrates. If you can even convince them that you stand on solid ground or needed ground for interposition, most of them won't do it because of a little thing called cowardice. They won't do it. And they have 1,000 ways to justify it. But you have to understand, we've reached a point in this country where the people better start banding together with their lesser authorities and stand against evil. Otherwise, this thing's just going to be a juggernaut, and everybody's going to go into blithe compliance. Understand, you don't need a majority to win. All you need is 3%, 5% of a population. All they had through most of the American Revolution was 5% of the population on their side. They got up to 15% at the height of it all, if I remember right. And so all you need is a small group of men, as Sam Adams said, who want to start brush fires and want to stand against tyranny. He used the term a holy cause, and you can stop the evil that they're doing. But suffering can be a part of what takes place when you're standing against the evil. So you got to weigh everything out. So I'd want to look at it more closely, to give you an idea of what could possibly be done.
So for these resolutions, do you have any? I've never written the resolution.
Oh, yeah.
I've never written a resolution. I have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, if you're looking for like a motto, just contact me. I can give you my thing after we're done here, and I'll email them over to you.
Okay.
So you have an idea of what, and you can tweak it
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Take this and give it to that lady that just spoke. Ask her for the article. That's a supervisor. Not stood up against her. Any other questions? Paul?
This session was videotaped. It'll be on YouTube in a few days. You can search Matt or search me, Paul Kurt, and forward it on. It'll be one videotape, and we'll get it to your leaders so you can pass it down through the thing. But it will be, I have to go to Arlington tomorrow, so it'll be a couple days before I get it up there. And let's talk about the books and back, Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah, and make sure you, when you get that video, you send it to every one of your county supervisors and your county sheriffs that's not here tonight. I have a question for you, Matthew, before you talk about your book. So, back to Paul's question about January 6th. So, is it possible that counties could set up a constitutional county situation with a resolution that says any federal agent that wants to come into this county, and I don't know if you can make it specific, that is going to arrest anybody from the January 6th thing, must see the sheriff and somehow try to keep these people at bay from arresting people?
Yeah. Understand the resolution carries no authority. It's not a law. It's not an ordinance. But what it does show is where the heart is and what the intent is. So it would take the sheriff in order to withstand the federal authorities. We have a good example of that dealing with, talking about these farmers with this corporation. We had a sheriff over in Indiana, I forget his name now, Brad something. And this was probably 6 years ago now. But the feds came in and were going to seize the farm and all the equipment because this guy was selling raw milk. What a crime wave. And so the sheriff actually stood with the farmer and told the federal agents to hit the road. And they did. And the farmer was left unmolested. So that's important stuff. But I think we're reaching a point, just like where you saw in Wisconsin back in the 1850s, where county officials, like the sheriff, are going to have to take action against either federal agents or state agents in order to protect people within their county. Because the lawlessness at this point has reached that point. And, you know, they spent years trying to catch Sherman Booth. People were trying to protect him. There was actually a fist fight between people and federal agents in Ripon, where the Republican Party started, and Sherman Booth jumped out a window to escape. And people are, oh, that just sounds terrible, Pastor Matt. No, it really doesn't sound terrible when you're under tyranny. It sounds like people who understood they needed to take action because things were that bad. And so that's where we're at right now. The evil is so deep at this point. I mean, think about it. Genital mutilation of children. How is that even possible? And they're all carrying water for it. So our hearts need to break before the Lord. We need to cry out to Him, and we need to do right by Him and by our neighbor. And I think it'll grow in the days ahead where local officials will interpose for residents within their county or city in order to protect them from lawless government officials.
Thank you.
We have time?
Yep.
So I'm just about finished your book before I gave it away to someone that I wanted to read it. So I have a stack of them. I have plenty more now.
That's cool.
In the book, there's a lot more about Christianity than there was tonight. My question is, do you have 1 or 2 points as to how we can approach pastors
Yeah.
with their power and what they really can do, but seem fearful of
Right.
sometimes.
What I always tell people is, when it comes to the churchmen, very difficult, and this question, I've spoken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Christian events, political events. This question comes up almost every single time. How do we get pastors involved? So if you go to our website, defytyrants.com, right on the home page, there's a box there that changes out every few seconds, and the fourth one is entitled, Why Aren't Pastors Involved? And if you go there, I have 3 short articles on a topic called pietism, and I have a 35-minute lecture on pietism. In fact, I'm trying to finish a book on it, have done for the last 4 years, just busy all the time, on pietism, because it's a great neutralizer within Christianity by the churchmen. Understand, the churchmen have been taught that we should have nothing to do with civil government matters, that it's unspiritual to have anything to do with civil government matters. And that's absolutely not true. God's law and word speaks to every area of our life and every area of life, including civil government matters. And so a faithful churchman will address all matters from the Word of God. So here's what the churchmen do. They've pillared like all kinds of slogans to make you feel bad if you get involved in civil government matters, like we should just preach the gospel, they'll tell you. Or we should just pray. Or I just expect sinners to act like sinners. And they have like 200 slogans. So it's part of my book is going to be dismantling these little slogans. The number one that I always hear from the churchmen for 30 years now is, we should just preach the gospel. So how do you dismantle that? Very simply. Number one, nobody just preaches the gospel. Do you ever take your wife for a walk? Do you ever wrestle with your kids? Do you ever use the restroom? Nobody just preaches the gospel. Number two, notice when they say we should just preach the gospel. When you're at church next time and the church potluck is announced, see if someone jumps up and says, oh no, we should just preach the gospel. Or when the church softball team's being organized, see if someone says, oh no, we should just preach the gospel. No, it's only when you bring up some civil government matter that they jump up and say, we should just preach the gospel. Why? Because they want to put a wet blanket over you. They want you to feel unspiritual. They want to neutralize you and get you back on their religious hamster wheel to nowhere. That's what you're up against. So if you have to be able to dismantle those arguments. Third thing I say to dismantle it is, where are all these people just preaching the gospel? Because they never run into me as I go through my day. So it's extremely important that you are able to dismantle these slogans and that you're able to help the churchmen to understand God's word speaks to every area of life. Now I'll tell you, I have a stack of letters probably that thick from churchmen across the country who read my book and said, your book helped me to see for the first time in my life that my Christianity has something to do with civil government matters. I tell you, that is a huge bridge for them to cross. And so, and I can't thank God enough when I get a letter like that. But understand, there's been no run on sackcloth and ashes. Down at the Ace Hardware by the churchmen, the vast majority are still, we should just preach the gospel. But more and more of them are realizing, oh no, this is messed up. And God's word does speak to every area of life. By the way, I'll tell you, the number one group of magistrates I've received letters from is sheriffs. I got a big stack of letters from sheriffs across the country who read my book. The ones who are Christian basically say something like, other than the Bible, your book is the most important book I've ever read for my office. For the non-Christians, they write to me and they say, this is the most important book I've ever read regarding my office. I've got letters from DAs who've written to me, which is shocking in my opinion, because they've been schooled in the judiciary and all that nonsense. And then I have many letters from university professors, both at public universities, major like Western State, Western Michigan University, UW Oshkosh, other place where they're using my book for their classes. Do you know how encouraging that is, that they're bringing this thinking to young people? Because we all see the end of our days. Most of us sitting here, we now see the end of our days. And so we want to be able to pass this important thinking on to younger men and younger women. Amen? Also, there's many Christian homeschooling outfits now using my book too, including like 2 weeks ago, some lady told me she gets Answers in Genesis, Ken Ham's homeschooling stuff, and the guy's on there with the class, it's on video, and all of a sudden, Pastor Matt, he's talking about this book, and he held it up, and he said, everybody should read this book, Doctrine, Lesser Magistrate. So anyways, it's encouraging to see that people are learning about these things, that we're bringing Christian thought to civil government matters. Very important. Sure.
I have a question. And I'd like to do one question or answer one. The sheriff is one of the most important people in your counties.
Yep.
He can stop almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question. I'm proud to see you got the American flag there.
Yeah.
And I have another question on that. Why don't you have the gold fringe around it?
Oh, we don't have a gold fringe around it because it shows admiralty.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And what is the admiralty? We're captured?
You know, I looked into all this like 35 years ago. So I don't remember.
Well, I don't know if anybody else here knew that, because everywhere you go, your courthouses, your churches, they all got the fringe around the flag, correct?
Yes, a lot of them, yeah.
Does yours?
Where?
Where you preach?
No, we don't have an American flag where I preach.
So that is admiralty, so that means everybody's captured at sea, correct?
Yeah, I know it's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing.
I just don't remember all the reason it's bad.
That.
Yes.
It's not.
But it's good to see that flag doesn't have.
That is a good flag. But you should have the peace flag.
Have what?
The peace flag.
The peace flag?
It's for hanging like this.
Uh-huh.
That's the peace flag. That's the war flag.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
I don't know.
I am.
I got to learn more about flag etiquette.
Question, just a mechanic's question. FBI comes into the county. Can the sheriff stop him? What do they have to do prior to making an arrest? Do they have to clear it with the sheriff?
Yeah, we usually do clear it with the local law enforcement, whether it's the sheriff or a police department. Interesting thing, one time Clinton was going through and we were out protesting on the street, and Secret Service agents swarmed us, like 5 of them with little things in their ears. And they're nice suits, much nicer than my suit. And so we just started mocking them. We said, you have no jurisdiction here, you can't arrest us. You have no authority. And you know what? They went and sought a local police officer to come over and address us because they knew they had no authority. Their authority was over in D.C., not in Milwaukee. And so, anyways, I know that's purely anecdotal, but that was my experience. Because they totally backed down when we called them on it, and actually brought over a local cop to try to dress us down. But they didn't arrest us or do anything to us. Yeah, you have to stand up to people. One of the things I've run into, we do a lot of ministry out on the streets, so I've learned over the years about police officers. And so you have to be able to not be bullied by them. And you have to appeal to good things when they want to trample First Amendment rights, for example, and remind them that men fought blood and died for these freedoms, and we cannot glibly give them up. And so we're not moving. We're staying where we're standing, right here. So you can de-escalate because they're human beings. Some of these guys are beside themselves and just that crazy. Sometimes you end up in jail for a few hours and then they let you go, kind of like Paul in the book of Acts. We'll just let you go out the back door. He's like, no, you're not letting me go. I did just leave. Just like, anyway, yeah, so it's important that you stand. It's important that you speak. Public hearings on bills and policies and things like this, massively important that you speak at them. I view them as an opportunity to bring good thoughts to whatever legislative body or magistrates you're speaking to. Last year I was asked to give the sermon at the National Sheriff's Association, which was held in Grand Rapids, Michigan last year. It's a national convention for the sheriffs across the country. And of course I did it on the Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate, which was a great opportunity to talk to them. And I had many sheriffs come up to me afterwards and talk further with me. There are some really good sheriffs in this country. The majority of them, however, are just rubber stamps for the federal government. They'll let the federal government come in. They'll be there applauding them while they're doing wrong to someone, like some guy selling raw milk, you know.
Well, technically, your county sheriff should be your first line of defense between you and tyranny.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for you to talk to them and communicate with them and to unseat them if they're not good. Our last county sheriff where I'm from, we had each other's cell phones. We'd talk with some regularity. He loved all this stuff that you guys talk about here. Our new sheriff who came in, I tried to set up a meeting with him 3 times. He never would meet with me. And so, yeah, we want to unseat him. So it's important. Gary shared with me a letter he sent to his county sheriff, and his county sheriff responded in a positive manner. It's extremely important to talk to them, have a relationship with them, and to bring things to their attention that they need to stand against. And all of us should do that.
Any other questions? Okay.
I would just want to say that I first heard of you a decade ago through Glenn Back.
Oh, okay.
And your ministry and your book and everything. And one of my regrets is that I didn't pay more attention at the time. And thank you for everything.
Yeah, no, I thank you. And this is from me and my wife. When we travel and do this, you have to understand, we've wept for our nation more in the last few years than we did the 30 years prior to that. We know God's judgment is just, and we know why it's happening, but it's so hard to watch. And so when we come to stuff like this, you guys bring us so much encouragement to continue on and to be faithful to Christ. So I just want to thank all of you, and I pray God uses each of you mightily in the days ahead. So thank you, and God bless you.